Now, US billionaire and Tesla CEO Elon Musk launched a fresh attack on UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Musk termed Starmer, and I'm quoting here, an actor with an empty head.
Elon Musk just hijacked British politics. One post, one sentence, and suddenly the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom looked like he was being dragged into a courtroom built on public opinion. No press briefing, no polite diplomacy, just a digital war declaration, broadcast live to 200 million people. And it started after a tragedy that the government thought it could quietly bury. 3 little girls. BB King, age 6, Elsie Dome, age 7, Asta Silva, age 9. Southport, England, July 29th, 2024. A story that should have united a country instead exposed how broken it really was. False information spread, tempers flared, and instead of calming people down, the British state decided to go full authoritarian. The police didn't target rioters, they went after social media users. 400 arrests in weeks, 30 people a day dragged in for posts, likes or shares. One of them was a 55-year-old woman named Bernice Borth. Her crime? Sharing a post that was already viral. She didn't call for violence, she didn't organise anything, she just clicked share. Police raided her home, confiscated her phone, and now she's facing prison time. Another case hit harder. Peter Lynch, 61 years old, grandfather, protest attendee. No vandalism, no assault. Arrested anyway. Hours later, he was dead in a cell. A man who raised a family and served his country, gone because he expressed an opinion. The same week, a convicted pedophile walked out of court with an 18-month sentence. A former Marine got 7 years for posting a 13-minute video calling for peace. A man who wrote 8 words on Facebook, "Don't come to Southport," got 20 months in prison. 8 words, 20 months. The government wasn't solving problems, it was punishing conversation. In modern Britain, words had become more dangerous than crimes. That's when Musk stepped in. Not with a legal statement or a press release, he went straight to the public. Soviet-level censorship, he called it. A police state. 2 sentences that hit Westminster like a lightning strike. Ministers laughed at first. They thought he'd move on. They didn't understand what they were dealing with. Musk doesn't just have followers. He has the largest global megaphone in human history. Every arrest, every harsh sentence, every hypocrisy, he blasted it to hundreds of millions of screens in real time. Suddenly, Britain wasn't just trending. It was under investigation by the entire internet. Officials panicked. Home Office statements started dropping hourly. Government spokespeople accused Musk of spreading lies. Police even floated the idea of extraditing him. Yes, the same British law enforcement that ignored decades of systemic child exploitation was now talking about arresting the world's richest man for tweets. The absurdity wasn't lost on anyone. By that point, Musk didn't need to respond with anger. He responded with facts. And those facts tore open something the government had spent years trying to forget. He started posting documents, old reports, old headlines, the kind of information Britain hoped would stay buried in archives. It wasn't about censorship anymore. It was about the one topic British politicians dread, the grooming gang scandals. Rotherham, Rochdale, Telford, Oxford, thousands of children abused for decades while officials looked the other way, at least 1,400 victims in a single town. Some estimates say over 100,000 nationwide, children as young as 11, drugged, trafficked and sold to men in organised networks that everyone in power knew existed. Social workers knew, the police knew, politicians knew. They all said the same thing. Too sensitive to investigate, because apparently optics mattered more than justice. Reports were written, quietly shelved and forgotten. The cycle repeated for 20 years. Musk threw that history back in their faces with one brutal line. Starmer was complicit in the worst mass crime in modern British history. He chose politics over children. It wasn't a random accusation. Between 2008 and 2013, Keir Starmer was the head of the Crown Prosecution Service. His office oversaw those exact years when thousands of child exploitation cases were dropped. Whistleblowers came forward with proof, a 2008 memo that admitted the problem but instructed police to avoid any action that might appear discriminatory. That memo became the symbol of how deep the cowardice ran. Thousands of girls abused, ignored and discarded because politicians didn't want bad headlines. When Musk posted that, global media finally woke up. Headlines that had disappeared from British front pages years ago came roaring back. Why were victims ignored? Who protected the abusers? Why did Starmer's office drop the cases? The questions spread faster than the government could contain them. Starmer didn't deny the memo. He didn't deny the failures. He just complained about foreign interference, as if public outrage was now a foreign concept. That's when it became clear Musk wasn't just angry, he was building a case, publicly. Each post was timed, sourced, and lethal. When the government tried to accuse him of misinformation, he replied with screenshots of their own reports. When the BBC fact-checked him, he linked to court documents. When ministers tried calling him a conspiracy theorist, he shared statistics from their own databases. The country that built its image on free speech was suddenly being schooled on censorship by an American tech CEO. And here's the irony. The British government tried to silence people for destabilizing the public, but nothing destabilized the public more than their silence. Once Musk entered the story, the censorship narrative flipped. Arrests looked like oppression. Trials looked like cover-ups. Every overreach became proof of guilt. Musk didn't just expose their actions, he made them unignorable. The establishment couldn't fight back. They had no credibility left. Every time they pushed a denial, Musk pushed a receipt. Every time they played victim, he showed who the real victims were. By the end of that week, police state wasn't a meme. It was a label half the country started using unironically. And the Prime Minister, the same man once marketed as a stable leader, now looked like the face of Britain's biggest modern disgrace. Because this wasn't just about crime, it was about what happens when governments forget who they serve. One man with a phone called their bluff, and the empire blinked. By the time the government realized this wasn't a viral storm but a global reckoning, Musk had already shifted gears. The expose phase was over, the digital war had begun. Starmer's response was weak. He tried to paint Musk as an outsider meddling in domestic politics. That line might have worked 10 years ago, but not in 2025. The world doesn't stop at national borders anymore. One post from Musk reaches farther than the BBC, Sky News, and The Guardian combined. His reply came within minutes. Foreign interference? You're the one jailing citizens for speech. That was it. Short, cold, devastating. And it landed harder than any parliamentary statement all year. Every major headline shifted overnight. Musk versus Starmer. Britain's censorship crisis. Digital power versus political power. British officials looked like they were trapped in a PR nightmare they couldn't control. But behind those posts, something else was happening. Strategy. Sources close to Musk said he'd gone from reactive to deliberate. He wasn't just criticizing. He was applying pressure in every direction. Step 1. Use his platform to highlight every government failure, every censorship arrest, every broken promise. Step 2. Quietly amplify Reform UK, the rising anti-establishment party gaining momentum across social media. Step 3. Leverage his ties with Trump and the American business lobby to economically squeeze Britain's leadership through trade and investment routes. You could feel the tension building online. Hashtags turned into movements. Reform UK's numbers started climbing in polls, small at first, then fast enough for Labour MPs to panic. Television panels that once dismissed Farage as fringe were suddenly forced to take him seriously. The establishment had never faced an opponent like this, one that didn't campaign in constituencies but in algorithms, and Musk didn't even need to leave his office. Every time the government tried to counter him with press releases, he'd post something sharper, a document, a quote, a clip of a minister contradicting themselves. You can't win against a man who controls the conversation at scale. Every correction attempt only fed the narrative that he was right. Then came the post that detonated the old political order. December 2024. Musk publicly suggested that King Charles should dissolve Parliament. A single sentence. Sometimes democracy needs a reset. 8 words that rattled a 200-year-old constitutional system. The last time a monarch dissolved Parliament against government wishes was 1834. But this wasn't a history lecture. It was a challenge to the sitting Prime Minister's legitimacy, live in front of the entire planet. Hashtag dissolve Parliament went viral. Not just in Britain, everywhere. You had Americans tweeting about British constitutional law, Canadians debating royal powers, Australians asking if the king could really do it. The story left politics and became spectacle. And when Musk realised that global attention had shifted, he doubled down. Reform UK's polling shot up. Nigel Farage went from political nostalgia to headline material again, standing shoulder to shoulder with Musk at international events. Business conferences, freedom summits, investor panels, all of them now orbiting this strange new alliance between a Silicon Valley billionaire and Britain's anti-establishment right. Inside Labour, panic spread. Private polling leaked, showing Starmer's approval down double digits. Ministers stopped defending the arrests in interviews. You could see it in their faces, the calculation had changed. Every sentence defending the government sounded like career suicide. And if you've been following this far, you already know what's coming next. So before we go deeper into how Musk turned this meltdown into a constitutional crisis, hit that subscribe button. Because when governments start losing control this fast, every update matters. The press tried reviving the old defenses. They called Musk dangerous, reckless, unaccountable. But every insult was met with screenshots, court filings, official data. He turned government press briefings into comedy material. Every denial was met with evidence before the segment even aired. The state simply wasn't built for this speed. Meanwhile, British institutions started fracturing. Senior civil servants warned that Musk's campaign had destabilised public confidence. Translation: people stopped believing official statements. Police departments faced open backlash. Judges were called out by name online. For the first time in decades, the establishment didn't control the story. A man with Wi-Fi did, and this wasn't chaos without direction. Musk's messaging was surgical. He framed it not as him versus Britain, but truth versus censorship. Every post came with data and timestamps. He wasn't ranting, he was prosecuting. The country looked like it was being cross-examined by an engineer who'd built rockets and now decided to dismantle governments. When Musk mentioned King Charles again, it didn't sound hypothetical anymore, it sounded like a countdown. When a government jails citizens for tweets while protecting grooming gangs, he wrote, normal politics has failed. That single post didn't just trend, it triggered panic calls inside Downing Street. Advisors scrambled to craft responses that wouldn't make them look even guiltier. None of them worked. Then came the domino effect. Reform UK hit record polling numbers. Business leaders began signalling confidence in an early election. Opposition MPs started echoing Musk's phrasing in Parliament. Words like digital overreach and speech repression suddenly appeared in official debates. The narrative wasn't underground anymore, it was mainstream. Even British media, the same outlets that had ignored child exploitation for years, were forced to revisit the topic. They dug up Starmer's old CPS statements. They replayed archived interviews where he dismissed certain cases as complex. Those clips resurfaced like ghosts, shared millions of times across Musk's platform. Each repost chipped away at the government's credibility. The Labour communications team tried one last defence, branding Musk as a foreign billionaire manipulating British politics. But by that point, it was over. Musk had more British followers than Labour had voters. Every attack turned into engagement. Every rebuttal turned into a meme. You could feel the government losing control, one press conference at a time.